Now, the cold cases. It was the night after Thanksgiving 2011 when a young mother was shot and killed. The bullets intended for someone else.
I still can't feel that she's really gone. You know, I wake up sometimes just wanting to hear her voice.
Now the victim's mother is making it her mission to get justice not only for her daughter, but the countless others like her. This is the story of Essence Crystal. The last time Diana Garlington heard her daughter's voice, it was late the night after Thanksgiving, 2011.
Her voice was different. She was a little shaky. She sounded irritable, like she wasn't herself.
About an hour after that phone call, there was a knock on Garlington's door. Her daughter had been shot.
I feel like it was still a dream because it woke me out of my sleep. So I was actually just thinking like maybe I was just dreaming or something like that until I actually got to the hospital.
Doctors told Garlington 21-year-old Essence Crystal was dead.
Unfortunately, I collapsed for a bit, and once they woke me up and everything, and I found out it was real.
The reality still haunts Garlington more than 10 years later. She says Essence was driving her boyfriend and another man down Broad Street when shots fired from another car riddled the driver's side of hers. Essence lost control, crashed into a tree, and rolled the car onto its roof. The two men in the car with her survived.
We would have liked the men to give us some sort of idea or some sort of anything, any sort of information they had, but they did not.
Providence Police Major David LePayton says no one on the scene cooperated with investigators. He says one of the men in the car with Essence had been targeted in a different shooting just weeks prior. Essence, he says, was an innocent victim. Is it frustrating when you have a case like this, especially one, you know, where it's an innocent person caught in the crossfire and you're not able to bring the person or people responsible to justice?
Yes, it's very frustrating. Look, we work very hard to make arrests in these cases, and when we make the arrest, like I've told you numerous times before, we have to make sure that this is the person that we absolutely believe through all the evidence and interviews, interrogations, that this is the person that committed that crime, because we only get one shot at it.
We have suffered a lot of gun violence.
Since her daughter's death, Garlington has worked as a community organizer, most recently founding the group Safer Communities for Justice in an effort to solve unsolved homicides like Essence's.
Her family needs justice. We need to bring these individuals to face what they've done.
Garlington says Essence was smart and bubbly, but got mixed up with the wrong people. She says every time she sees a headline about another deadly shooting, the old wounds are reopened again and again.
I can't sleep at night knowing that these individuals are laying down with their children and families every night, and my child is not here.
If you know anything about the murder of Essence Crystal, you are urged to contact Providence Police. For more information on this and other cold cases, or to tell us about one that you think we should cover, just head to WPRI.com.
In this week's cold case, we're going back 90 years to the Great Depression, right on the cusp of Prohibition being overturned. A local rum runner goes missing.
It's a mystery, but also a tragedy that left a local family asking the same question to this day. What happened to Danny Walsh? February 1933, the same month Congress proposes the 21st Amendment to bring prohibition to an end, a South County bootlegger disappears. He was beer baron Danny Walsh.
There were folks that thought he was sort of the scourge of South County, you know, traveling around in a stagecoach with German shepherds and machine guns. I mean, he was a gangster.
Danny Walsh's great-grandson, James Walsh III, is a filmmaker now, speaking to us via Zoom in London. He spent time researching and writing about the man who grew from a boy in Cumberland to a jazz-age figure right out of an F. Scott Fitzgerald novel.
He he became sort of this folkloric character in our imagination because no one ever really knew him.
Danny's disappearance made a splash in the papers, landing on the front page of the Providence Journal. James has his theories about what happened and believes someone dangerous and powerful wanted Danny Walsh out of the way.
It involved money, it involved a meeting, and he was never seen again.
Several years after he vanished, his name reemerged in the press. The Providence Journal reported a skeleton found in Vermont was not his. A skull caught in a fisherman's net off Block Island didn't belong to him either.
Remains have been found. The scene, a piece of property on Matunic Schoolhouse Road.
Fast forward to 2016, and Danny Walsh's name was back in our headlines after human remains were discovered on what used to be his family farm in South Kingstown. Could they belong to the missing rum runner? Archaeologist Joseph Waller was brought in to answer that question.
We have been doing this long enough that we know what we're looking for.
How quickly did you know that this was not Daniel Walsh's body?
Within 15 minutes.
Let's see. There is this reference to this lot, and so we kind of had an idea if that's what we're dealing with.
Waller says through the research he had done prior to arriving and what he found on site,
This is some of the coffin hardware we found when we were excavating these things.
he knew he was dealing with a family cemetery from the mid-1800s, not the haphazard burial site of a 1930s bootlegger.
It was 5 or 6 individuals that were there. The family that was interred there, they were Quakers. And Quakers themselves, they didn't always mark their graves for their own philosophical beliefs.
It really affected their whole lives.
James says his great-grandfather's disappearance was a true tragedy for his father and his aunt, and particularly his grandfather, Danny Walsh's son.
So every time a lead turned up or a skull turned up and it went on for years because it was an unsolved case. Well, you can imagine the ramifications, on his family of spending his life looking for his father.
Archaeologist Timothy Ives understands the undying search for the truth.
It's human nature. People have an unresolved story that's almost legendary in the community. So even I thought, maybe there's a chance. It sounds really interesting. But, one of the things about archaeology, it very often disappoints the hopeful.
And James wrote a screenplay about his great-grandfather in which his remains were discovered, but in reality, he doesn't think they will ever turn up. For more information on this and other cold cases, or to tell us about one that you think we should cover, just head to WPRI.com.
New at 5:30, the Massachusetts State Police are unveiling a brand new deck of playing cards aimed at solving homicides and missing persons cases. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Montecalvo.
And I'm Kim Clooney, and the cards will be distributed to inmates across the Bay State in hopes they may hold information that could crack these cases. I took a closer look at the deck and some of the local cases detectives are hoping to solve.
52 cards with 52 faces, each with their own story, their own family, and their own pain.
I think about it every single day.
Taunton's Debbie Mello is the queen of diamonds in the deck. Debbie went missing in June 2000 and was never heard from again. We sat down with her family last year to talk about the case that still haunts them nearly 22 years later.
So there's hopefully somebody that still remembers what happened on that day, that they have nothing to lose except just come forward and let us know what you know.
Now the Massachusetts State Police Unresolved Cases Unit is out with a new tool they hope will generate leads in cases like Mello's, a deck of playing cards highlighting various unsolved homicides and missing persons cases. The MSP releasing this video Wednesday showing each card and featuring a message from Colonel Christopher Mason.
We believe that justice delayed does not need to be justice denied. Help us speak for these souls who can no longer speak for themselves.
Aside from Mello's case, the deck features multiple cases from Bristol County, including the New Bedford homicides of Cecil Lopes III, Ashley Silva, and Marcus Roberts, the Fall River murder of Vincent Wadlington, and the slaying of Devin Hodo in Taunton. Other states have launched similar decks, including Rhode Island in 2018.
Now the cold cases. A December night turned deadly when a mother was struck and killed by a car.
She didn't have to go out like that. And it, you know, it just hurts.
Gina Isom left behind a large family, and their grief 13 years later is still fresh. It's only compounded by the fact that the person behind the wheel was never caught and has never come forward. The corner of Atwells and Cutler in Providence, December 9th, 2008. 41-year-old Gina Isom was struck by a car and killed.
I still can't believe it. You know, I still have nightmares about it.
Renee Griffin is Gina's older sister, one of her 17 siblings. She still remembers the devastating phone call that woke her that night.
I was in California. My phone rang at 2:30 in the morning. And my twin sister was like, Gina's dead.
According to a police report from the time of the crash, investigators spoke with multiple witnesses, but the car involved was only described as a small vehicle that was traveling east on Atwells. Our news reports from that night indicated it was a dark-colored sedan, and there were no skid marks left behind.
I lost my baby, you know, and I wish he would turn himself in.
We spoke with Gina's father, James, in the hours after his daughter's death.
But for him to run her down like that and leave, that's cold-blooded. Well, he better come forward.
But that person never did. Police tell 12 News the case was closed in 2009, and unless someone produces new evidence or information, it will stay that way.
I think I got wet, by the way.
Griffin and her family have ensured Gina's story stays in the headlines each December. The holidays are a painful reminder of their loss and the plea that Gina made just before her death.
You know, she had called me, you know, after Thanksgiving, and she was like, you know, I need you, I can't do this without you. And I told her I'll be home for Christmas, and then she could come back and stay with me, her and her son, and she died December 8th, December 9th, you know, and it was, and I just felt like, you know, it was, you know, I could have did something, I should have came, you know. When people say, Renee, it's not your fault, you know, but it's a process to go through. You know, I'm still grieving because, you know, we don't know who did it. And I'm just gonna keep fighting. I'm gonna keep fighting for her. Her and her son.
That fight isn't just for Gina, but for the son she left behind and the grandchildren she never got to meet. Griffin says she forgives the person responsible and wants them to unburden themselves.
Unfortunately, it's been 13 years and, you know, they still haven't come forward. You know, but that's okay because I'm not going to stop fighting for my sister. You know what I mean? Until she has justice. And I know that's what she would have wanted, to find out who did this to her.
Griffin is still dogged in her pursuit of the truth, saying there's a $10,000 reward and she's working to get a billboard put up to bring awareness to her sister's case. If you have any information, you are urged to contact Providence Police. For more information on this and other cold cases, or to tell us about one that you think we should cover, head to WPRI.com.
We begin at 5:30 with the cold cases.
While the nation was gripped by the horrific events unfolding on the morning of September 11th, 2001, a local mother was locked in her own personal nightmare. Her only child had been found dead.
20 years later, Nicole Parsons, Bucky's killer, has never been caught, but her mother's calls for justice carry on.
This is indeed the most tragic hour in America's history.
September 11th, 2001.
Two separate planes have hit the World Trade Center.
The world watched as unprecedented terror attacks unfolded on American soil, but one local mother's attention was elsewhere.
At the moment, the Twin Towers were being hit by the jet. The policemen were telling me that my daughter had been killed. She was dead. And I just started to scream.
27-year-old Nicole Parsons Bucky had been found in the bathtub of her Charles Street apartment. A hairdryer was in the water with her, but an autopsy revealed she had been drowned.
We have suspects, we have witnesses. We have statements.
Providence Police Major David LePayton says Nicole likely knew her killer. The day before her death, she had called police about her boyfriend, who was a juvenile at the time. Police say they had a violent relationship. He was briefly taken into custody and released. Less than 24 hours later, Nicole was found dead. LePayton would not say if Nicole's boyfriend was ever ruled out as a suspect, but admits that investigators lost evidence connected to the case around the time Providence Police moved into their new headquarters in 2002. He says it was improperly labeled and disposed of. LePayton would not say what that evidence included.
And sometimes, even when you have, like you say to yourself, okay, we know he or she did it, but you have to prove it. So even though we have our thoughts and our ideas, we have to have proof. And whether or not that evidence would have given us the proof that it was misplaced or not, I can't tell you. I don't know. It didn't at the time.
We're not going to stop. We're not going to back down. We're not going to give up.
Now Nicole's mother, Robin, has teamed up with Lauren Malloy, whose organization, Unsolved RI, is offering a $1,000 reward for information leading to an arrest in Nicole's case.
I started looking into it and very quickly realized something's off here, and this case deserves to be brought out into the light and investigated and advocated for.
Robin tells me her daughter was happy, fun-loving, and curious. Nicole was a mother to a daughter who is now a mother herself. Although she can never get her back, Robin hopes Nicole's story can help someone else.
If I can help one young lady from this ever happening again, to get out before things like this do happen, then a piece of my heart is got a little more of a fill to it, because I helped someone in Nicole's name by letting her story be known.
Now, Nicole's boyfriend at the time maintains his innocence, telling me just this afternoon in an email, in part, "I love Nikki just as much as anyone else, if not more. I think it's great you guys are making a story on this case. I've also talked to so many investigators, took multiple DNA tests. There's nothing much I can do at this point." For more information on this and other cold cases, or to tell us about one you think we should cover, just head to WPRI.com. Well, you might recognize the name Molly Bish. The Massachusetts teenager went missing in June of 2000, but just this summer, 2 decades later, a person of interest was named in her death. But 1 week before Molly disappeared, another local woman vanished without a trace. And 21 years later, there are still more questions than answers. In this week's Cold Case, we're talking to the family and friends of Debbie Mello. June 2001, 1 year after a Taunton mother disappeared, friends and relatives gathered for a vigil.
Do you worry that 365 days later, you may never know what happened to her?
Hopefully it'll be very soon.
This was Deborah Mello's brother-in-law, Stephen DeMora, 20 years ago. We spoke with him again just this month as he and his family continue to search for the truth about what happened to Debbie.
There's so many rumors about what, where, why, and where she could be, but they exhausted everything.
It was June 20th, 2000, when Mello, a 30-year-old mother of 2, vanished. Her husband, Lewis, told police they had an argument and she got out of their car on Route 18 in South Weymouth. There have been no signs of her since.
She was my best friend.
Patricia White is Debbie's younger sister. She says she didn't find out that Debbie was missing until the following day.
We started calling every hospital. We started calling every friend. Everybody that we could have possibly tried to get a hold of to find out where she was and what happened.
Police scoured the area for signs of Debbie, but to no avail. Our reports from the Times said police stopped short of calling Lewis Mello a suspect, but considered Debbie's disappearance suspicious.
Very unusual for someone whose wife goes missing to delay in reporting her.
and then his lack of involvement with the police and trying to find his wife.
Massachusetts State Police declined an interview for this story, instead telling us in a written statement, quote, Debbie Mellow's disappearance remains under active investigation. Detectives continually pursue new leads and revisit old ones. We will not cease until our efforts to bring resolution and justice to Debbie's family are successful.
The feeling just doesn't go away. It doesn't fade. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get easier.
Those closest to Debbie don't believe she would ever walk away from her kids and fear something more sinister took place that June afternoon.
It's like a bad dream reoccurring every year, every day. I mean, it's not a day that goes by we don't, I know that I think about it every single day.
Debbie's family and friends have been dedicated to keeping her name in the headlines, holding vigils each year. They hope at some point someone will come forward with a critical piece of information.
So there's hopefully somebody that still remembers what happened on that day, that they have nothing to lose except just come forward and let us know what you know.
Her nieces have always lived under the shadow of their aunt's mysterious disappearance, tattooing sunflowers and dragonflies on their skin in her honor, hoping one day to know what really happened.
It would be like a little piece of like a heart put back together. You know, like she's a missing piece.
And I did reach out to a man who identified himself as Louis Mello over the phone, but when I told him why I was calling, the line went dead. If you know anything about the disappearance of Deborah Mello, Massachusetts State Police want to hear from you. For more information on this and other cold cases, or to tell us about one you think we should cover, just head to WPRI.com. Well, we've all heard of Lizzie Borden, right? But 60 years before her family's death rocked Fall River, another murder sent chills through the area. A local mill girl was found hanged. She was pregnant, and the suspect was a local minister. In this week's cold case, we're going back close to 200 years for the killing of Sarah Cornell. Through the gates of the Oak Grove Cemetery in Fall River, past the graves of the Borden family and their daughter Lizzie, lies Sarah Cornell.
Sarah Cornell was a mill girl, one of thousands of young women who got jobs in the mills throughout New England.
But close to 200 years ago, Sarah's ordinary life took a horrible turn.
December 1832, a farmer is driving his cattle across his land, and he discovers the body of Sarah Cornell hanging from a pole in a haystack yard.
That haystack yard is now part of Kennedy Park in Fall River, but at the time it was the farmland of John Durfee in what was then Tiverton, Rhode Island. Local historian Rory Raven wrote the book Wicked Conduct about Sarah's death.
At first there's talk that she had committed suicide, but then that pretty quickly appears to not be the case. And she's clearly the victim of a murder. And suspicion falls on a man named Ephraim K. Avery, who had been her minister. And they seem to have had, well, they definitely had this kind of tortured on-again, off-again relationship. And it was revealed or discovered that she was pregnant, a few months pregnant. And clearly he's a married minister, and if he's been having a relationship with a mill girl and now she's pregnant, you know, he'll be ruined.
Avery became the prime suspect in Sarah's death, and the evidence stacked up against him, including this note of Sarah's, which says, "If I should go missing, inquire of the Reverend Mr. Avery of Bristol. He will know where I am." The note was dated December 20th, the same day she was killed. Avery eventually stood trial for murder, but Raven says the defense called twice as many witnesses and assassinated Sarah's character. Avery walked free, and no one else was ever tried for Sarah's death.
Just everything just points to that so completely. So yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that this guy was guilty as sin. He just beat the rap, and he shouldn't.
Reverend Avery later left town, having been convicted in the court of public opinion, and about 60 years later, well, the Borden axe murders occurred, and that overshadowed Sarah's death, becoming the most notorious homicide in the region. For more information on this cold case and others, or to tell us about one that you think we should cover, just head to WPRI.com.